Welcome back everyone. Today I want to talk about a Mercedes-Benz engine that isn't discussed commonly, yet it's one of their most unreliable motors. And what's really sad about this motor is that you've got regular people who get into Mercedes and they think that because they're buying this motor, it's an entry-level motor, it's in a lot of Mercedes models, they're getting a good deal and they're going to have cheap motoring while being in a prestige brand like Mercedes-Benz. And Mercedes-Benz is one of the world's premier brands, right? It has a huge heritage. A lot of people want to get into a Benz, but they're making a mistake with this engine. So let's get right into it. I'll let you know exactly what the engine is, what models it comes inside, how it ranks against its competitors, why this engine is so flawed, right? What the major issue with this engine is. And at the very end, I'll also discuss what you can do if you have this engine, as well as cases of people who've got this engine and what they exactly had to deal with. All right, guys, let's get right into it. The engine that I'm talking about is Mercedes-Benz's M260 and M264 engine. Now these are sister engines. The M260 is a 4-cylinder turbo motor. It's actually very strong, right, in terms of its power, in terms of its sound, efficiency. You've got to count on the Germans. You know they make a really good motor. It can put out tons of power, the M260, up to 300, right? A bit more. And the difference is that M260 is a transverse mounted engine and it's applied to Mercedes-Benz's front wheel drive platforms. The M264 is longitudinally mounted and it's applied to Mercedes-Benz's rear wheel drive platforms, right? For the purpose of this video, I really want to cover the M260. Now the M264 has similar issues, but really guys, occurrences are much rarer. Now what cars is it used in? The M260 and the M264 across the board are pretty much used in every Benz you can think of, right? You've got it in the C class, you've got it in the A class, you've got it in the CLA class, the GLB class. I'll put a full screenshot of all the different models because if there's a 250 or 300 or 220 or 35 type Benz out there, right, a mid-range type Benz out there, pretty likely that they're using this engine. And really what I want to focus on in a big part is its performance application, and that's in the A35 and the CLA 35 and the GLA 35 cars, the AMG cars, right, the light AMG models. And what's really sad is a lot of people, they try to get into these cars because they're quite cheap and they see the AMG badge. So the competitors for the A35 or the CLA 35, that type of car is your Golf GTI, your Golf R, probably even a Honda Civic Type R of some nature. You've got the BMW M135i xDrive. You've got the Audi S3 GR cars like I've got here, the Corolla GR, the Hyundai i30N, etc. And first off, guys, all of those cars are much better buys than that Mercedes engine, right? All of those cars. I know you see the AMG badge and the exhaust is really nice and you see the nice interior and you think, you know what, I'm getting a A35, a 35 AMG, it's not a 45 AMG, but I'm still getting a good car. No, you're not, guys, okay? If I speak on the Honda, that's got a K20C1 motor. That motor's been out for a long time, right? They started off in the FK2, FK8, FL5. And guys, that motor from the very start was a brilliant motor. Honda had to do nothing reliability wise. It's got so little issues. If that motor is stock, it's going to go forever, right? It's got weaknesses such as overheating on track, but it's a brilliant motor, right? One I would recommend to all of my followers who want to drive a performance vehicle. And then you've got the likes of the Golf GTI and the Golf R, and again, they've got the EA888 motor. Now guys, I've got a separate video about the EA888 motor, and I've said that the first 2 gens of that motor were very unreliable. They suffer from timing chain and timing chain guide issues, water pump thermostat, which they still suffer from, and a bunch of other issues, PCV. But guys, in their current generation, especially Gen 3, but really Gen 4, those motors are really good. Bulletproof as far as the Germans go, right? And they're tuning powerhouses. Those are incredible motors, especially if you get a Gen 4. You can make a bunch of power. It's not a Japanese car, but it's an excellent motor. Then we head to another competitor, right, which is the BMW B48 powered M135i xDrive, which a lot of people are disappointed in because it's a front wheel based BMW. Obviously that engine in it is transversely mounted as well, based on a Mini, but it is a B48 which is based on BMW's B58. Now again guys, I want to say it's not going to be as reliable as a Camry or a Corolla, right? Or if you think about the Honda K20C1, the reliability of the Germans is not there. And you know, just as a side fact, a lot of people will tell you that the B48, B58 are reliable. They are, right? But they're still German motors. I've spoken to a bunch of people, mechanics, friends. Those motors have BMW issues, right? Not major issues, but they have their issues. The oil filter housing, that's pretty much 40 to 60,000 kilometers. You're going to have to do something about that. They've got some electronic issues here and there, so it's still a BMW, but otherwise, guys, bulletproof. You no longer have the issues where they're doing timing chains, right? Like the BMW N20 or N26. You no longer have the issue where you're worried about rod bearings, right? Like you were in the N55 motor, PWG and EWG. So that motor is brilliant. Then you've got the Hyundai N models, right? Again, guys, Hyundai has changed the game. People are tracking those cars, and short of a misshift, those cars are amazing. And then you've got the GR cars right now. I know a lot of people don't have the GR Yaris like I have here. It's not available in the States or in Canada. But the GR cars, guys, are also brilliant. Now, these motors do have their weaknesses. I want you to forget about the fire issues, and I'll cover that in a future video because I think the fire issues are truly overrated. The motors have their weaknesses, right? The valve springs, the head bolts, overheating diff on track. I guess that's not a motor related issue. But really, a lot of these issues come if you're modding the car, right? And the major issue, I think, with the GR motors is that red line at 7,200 or 7,250 or so is the hard red line for Toyota. If you do a misshift, right, it's going to turn into a money shift. You can't be misshifting this car. Misshifting is when you go from, say, you know, fifth gear down to second gear. You grab the wrong gear by accident and you moon your RPMs, right? You can't be doing that in these motors. It's because of the valve springs. And look, it's not just because Toyota used cheap valve springs. It's a lot of engineering considerations, effectively. That's what you're dealing with competition-wise. I think in terms of the AMG 35, I think any of the competition is better, right? And if you take away the sporty competition and say you're picking up just a A250 or something of that nature, I would say to you guys, why are you getting that car? The whole point of a Benz or BMW or Audi is to get some of their premier engines, right? That's what Germans do really well. They're 6 cylinders, you know, they're 8 cylinders as well. AMG has had some crazy 8 cylinders. And that's the route I think you should take. If you're going for a budget-friendly German car, don't do it, guys, because they're not really budget-friendly cars. And this leads me to the next issue, right? And I want to cover two things, specifically what's wrong with the engine. But before that, I want to cover the fallacy of people buying affordable German cars, right? Guys, I get this a lot where people say, hey, I want to get into a BMW, Audi, or Mercedes. And let's forget Audi for a bit. Let's talk BMW and Mercedes. And they think that if they get a 4-cylinder motor, they're going to save a bunch of money, right? They'll save money on gas, save money on maintenance and repairs. And guys, so untrue, right? First of all, the Germans, they do really good, efficient engines. Now, I'm in a Toyota. I've got a hybrid Toyota as well. When it comes to hybrids, Toyota kills the game. They were a pioneer at it, right? But when you consider 6-cylinder motors for Germans, even 8-cylinder motors, guys, they bring amazing efficiency out of it, right? And I've done it. I've driven a bunch of Japanese cars which were non-hybrid and German cars which were non-hybrid. The Germans kill it, right? And there's a bunch of stuff. They use high heat. They use different technology, get the engine oil warmed up really quickly, a bunch of stuff that they use, different types of oils to achieve efficiency. But if you're looking for fuel savings, 4-cylinder versus 6-cylinder, it doesn't really matter. Now, here's the killer, guys. A lot of people will get those 4-cylinder models, and it's a trap because often those 4-cylinder models are of lower quality. Prime example, N55 BMW versus the N20, N26 BMW. What are you better off getting? In my opinion, guys, it's the N55 because you get the 6-cylinder BMW, but then you don't get to import the timing chain issues that the N20 and N26 motors have, right? Pretty much based on the N55, the 4-cylinder was. All the issues of the N55, but then it added its own, right? And you've got a similar issue with Mercedes-Benz. The lower end motors are actually less reliable. And with BMW, as you go higher up in the models, the M models, everyone knows, you speak to mechanics, you speak to owners, those M models are better built. So if you're trying to get into these German cars and go for the lower cylinder motor, often you're making a mistake. Now, I said I left out Volkswagen Group earlier. And the reason I did that, guys, is because VAG Group has these really nice 4-cylinder motors. And, you know, they're 5-cylinder. The E8 855 is really good. But their E888 motor is, I say in today's world, bulletproof, right? So that's kind of different, where they've done really good and they've improved that motor over a long period of time where they're really good. But with Mercedes and BMW, try to stick with their higher cylinder count, right? That's out of the way. Let's discuss about what makes this engine so unreliable. The issue with this engine is a couple of things: valve seats or valve guides. Now, I'm going to put some photos up. Valve seats and valve guides, if you think about it, in a regular car engine, you've got your piston, you've got your valves, right? And valve guides are basically what's kind of holding that valve together, right? And your valve seat is where it goes to sit, right? Now, there's speculation on this, and we don't know exactly what the issue is, but either the valve guides wear out or the valve seats wear out. And the issue with that is once they wear out, you start getting leakages from the cylinder, and then you start getting misfires. Now, you may notice that the camera angle and the location might have changed a little bit. It's because my GoPro actually got a bit too hot. It's the Melbourne summer right now. I'm filming in my car because generally that's where I filmed all of my videos, and really I started my socials in the winter, so the car has been good. But now as the summer is coming through, I'm sort of wondering whether I should switch up my location. I'm in the middle of a build right now, which means I don't have a dedicated filming space, although I do find this pretty interesting as a backdrop, right? I don't have to paint a wall or anything. This is a nice enough backdrop. So to continue on with the story, the M260, the leakages from the cylinder, that's going to cause misfires. Okay, that's one of the major things you need to worry about. Obviously, there's some piston and rod issues in that engine as well. Notice that that's been an occurrence. Seems a bit rare, and I think in German cars there's always going to be some of that. What do you do, right? You might have this car, or you might be looking to purchase this car. What if you've got this car? What do? Do you go out and sell it immediately? Now, I want to be careful in this part of the video because this is not financial advice, right? And guys, to be honest, these issues may happen to you or they may not, right? This is where your own risk mitigation techniques come into play. You might assess and mitigate risk differently to me, right? I'm an engineer and I view everything from that risk framework matrix. Now, let's say you own this car. What do you do? Well, if your car is running well, then you're okay for now, right? And if your car is running well and it's within warranty, then you're really okay, right? What if your warranty might be coming to an end soon? Guys, I'd get rid of it. Okay, get rid of it after a warranty period. Not just with this engine. I treat many German engines the same. You're getting out of your warranty period, get rid of the car, get into something nicer. That's why you buy a German car really anyway, so you can upgrade and get the latest tech, the latest luxury, the latest innovation. That's what they're about. Now, let's say you've got this motor outside of warranty. It's the first time you've heard about this issue popping up. What do? Now, you can go ahead and sell that car, or you can hold on to it. And as I said, it's your own risk mitigation. There's some other things you can do to control the risk. And one of them is to look out for misfires. Now, what might happen is one day you might be in a car park or you might be driving somewhere, and all of a sudden you'll feel your engine be a bit weird and your car might stutter a bit, and then it'll go back to normal. You might turn it off, turn it back on again, and then from that point you might not notice something. What's happened? That's the car for the first time telling you that there's a leakage. You've got a misfire. Now, a misfire could be many things, and surprisingly, this car does have ignition issues as well, ignition coils. So it might be one of those issues, it might be spark plug issues. You don't know, but as soon as you have a misfire, you've got to be on your tippy toes, right? And that's why you're watching this video as well. And you've basically got to go and have it checked out by a mechanic. It would turn into something pretty big. It means that your valve guides or your valve seats have indeed worn out, or it could be an ignition issue. He'll fix that. Spark plugs, he'll fix that. But if it is that valve issue, then you need a new head. And you probably need a new head because if you let that go long enough and your valves drop, then your valves might contact your piston and then your car will really go bye-bye. You don't want to bend your valves or destroy your pistons, right? That's a major engine rebuild happening there. Now, let's discuss some of the cases. Now, when you buy a Mercedes-Benz, guys, all of us think we're getting this luxury product, right? You buy a Benz, you buy a BMW, you expect that really nice aftermarket support. And you've seen in today's era that these brands have diluted themselves, right? And not just for German cars, it's not just for cars even, right? It is with luxury products. You go into a Rolex store, yes, they'll offer you water or they'll offer you some sparkling water, give you a nice seat, but they'll say, look, we can't sell you a watch. We don't have the inventory on hand. The luxury experience has diluted down. You go to Hermes, they'll say, sorry, we can't get you that bag until you buy 10 or 20 other bags or you buy this off product from us, right? And it's the case with Porsche or Ferrari. They want you to buy certain things before they give you something else. And when you get defects with these brands, often they don't like honoring their warranty. I was watching Matt Watson on Cars, and he was talking about how his Porsche 911 GT3, or you might have a GT3 RS with the YSAC pack, right? That had a little stone chip in the windscreen, and it caused his entire windscreen to get damaged, right? And generally, that shouldn't happen with a car. Obviously, if you've got a stone chip, it shouldn't cause your entire windscreen to get damaged and break and have a big break in the middle, but it did cause that. He took it back to warranty, and Porsche said, sorry, we can't hold that under warranty. That's not our fault. And guys, you know how much a new windscreen on a Porsche is? 3,000 pounds. So that's how these luxury brands are these days. So if you think you've got this Mercedes and you're going to get some goodwill outside of warranty, you've got to be very careful because that's not going to be the case. And that's what happened to a lot of owners, right? And I've read a lot of stories. I went through all the forums, as I do before I make these videos. I talk to people, I research, I read all the technical notes. And what I found was that early days when this problem was happening, and it happens as early as 40,000 kilometers, when it was happening, it was new to Mercedes-Benz, and they didn't think it was a widespread issue. And pretty much right outside of that period, their Benz has broken, right? And they've gone to Mercedes and said, can we get some goodwill, please? And Mercedes has said no, right? And sometimes they've been able to barter with Mercedes, and Mercedes has said, yeah, okay, we might cover some of it, but first we've got to inspect it, and we'll charge you the full price for the inspection. And guess what, guys? An inspection is thousands of dollars to actually pull it apart and see what the issue is. So either way, you're going to get taken out, right? You're going to get your shirt taken off. And these are some of the sad stories that I notice with people, right? And a lot of these stories don't come to light, but this is the reality of German car ownership, right? And you know what? I'm in a Toyota, but it's the reality of any car ownership. You take a Toyota outside of warranty, they'll also tell you to, go home probably, right? It's the same thing. I often have an issue with people who, have to really defend certain cars, right? They'll go out and say, no, Mercedes. I had someone actually on my page. He said, how could you even speak about Toyota in the same sentence as a Mercedes, a prestigious brand like Mercedes? It transcends cars. And he had some great passion to him, right? And I'm thinking, that's great, mate. But if your Mercedes is outside of warranty, Mercedes is not even going to want to see you if you don't pay them, right? They'll happily take your car in, but best believe they'll say, give us the money and we'll take care of you. But we're not doing anything for you. So that brand that you put in such regard, what's it done for you? So those are the sad cases with this car, and that's kind of what you want to avoid. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed that video, and I'll catch you in the next time. I'm planning to do a bunch more. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content. And if you've made it this far, because this was a long video, if you've made this far, could you please comment down and let me know and say, look, mate, I watched your entire video and I had some fun. Thanks for watching.